So let's see how composition works when defining our constructors. So let's just look back at the syntax for writing a constructor with a member initializer list. The member initializer list is inserted after the constructor parameters. It begins with a colon, as you can see here, and then it lists each variable to initialize along with the value for that variable that we want to initialize it to within the parentheses. So here we're initializing the age underscore member variable of the whale class, and we're going to initialize it with the value that is passed in as a parameter to this constructor in the age parameter. So this is how it works for initializing member variables of primitive types. But how about for member variables that are objects, like here? So let's just visualize this. So in the main function here, I'm going to be calling the default constructor for video game. So let's just run this. I'm going to step through, and you can see that we're here in line 12. We're invoking the default constructor, and you can see that we have a member initializer list syntax right here. So the player object is going to be given this value 1. So where that 1 actually goes is it's going to be passed to the constructor for the player class. So let's step to the next. You can see that now we have an invocation of the player constructor, and we're passing in the value 1. And you can see that it also uses member initializer list syntax, and we're going to initialize the rank of the player to 1. So stepping through, you can see that the rank of the player here gets set, and then we exit out of the video game default constructor, and you can see within the main frame that our video game object has a player object whose rank is set to 1. So essentially, the 1 that is passed to this player in this member initializer list actually gets passed to the parameter for the player class, for the player constructor. So going back to here, when the member initializer list contains an object, it means that we're going to take whatever we put into the parentheses and we're going to call the constructor and pass those values into the constructor. So say that the player has a constructor to take an int for the ranking. That means when we use the member initializer syntax here, we're going to pass in the value 1. So to generalize this, when we initialize objects using the member initializer list, we just pass in whatever is captured within those parentheses into the constructor for that object.